So this is just a quick example of how you can execute macros from NitroCell within the automation process of any Creo related stuff that you're doing. So to do this, there's a couple of things you have to consider. Number one, is this going to be a macro that you just kind of run once, or is it meaning it's disposable within this workbook, or is it something that's going to be sticking around either at an application level or a workbook level? Um, either way, you're going to need to enable this developer tab within Excel, and that'll open up the rest of this little toolbar here. And you'll notice here that there's record macro button as well as a list of existing macros and also the Visual Basic interface. This automation that's currently here is just going to erase memory, open up this speaker model, delete a table, create a table, or clear it if it's already there, and then report the item counts for whatever's actively in session to that. So I'm going to go ahead and populate this. And you'll see here that there's our table of data that is being generated by NitroCell. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say let's turn off the erase memory and open because we're just going to leave this here. I just basically ran these commands to kind of get things up and running. And we're going to record a macro right now in Visual Basic to actually just modify that table. So let's say add 10 to table is going to be the name of our macro. And it's in recording mode right now. So if I select this, it's recorded. And then we'll say new number or any number. And we'll say that this plus 10, and then we'll just extend that down, and then we'll stop recording. Now, if you come to look at it, you'll see here that that macro is recorded. So if we take this, delete it, go to macros and say run, it pops that back in. So we know that the macro is working, which is good. And another thing I kind of want to point out here is that this is the workbook that we're currently working with. And you'll notice here that when I double click on this workbook, you don't see any content for any code there. Same thing on the WoW tab or any of these others. Um, that macro that recorded is actually here in this module. That's kind of the default thing that it does. And you can look here and see the Visual Basic steps that it's recorded, which is to select that tab, so on and so forth. So you can customize this and extend it if you want to. But we're just going to basically run this as an example of running an application level macro. And in order to run this, you obviously need to be saved as a XLSM file instead of a XLSX file, which is the file extension on the file format here. So we're going to go ahead and say macro run application, and I think it's add 10 to table is the macro name that we're going to run. And if we run this right now, it's going to delete the table that's there, populate it with the content from Creo, and then run that macro to add in that final column that we see there. So if we come into Creo and add in, let's say, another basket, or maybe another basket, and maybe we add in like another gasket, for example. So I've got all these new parts that I've added here, and I'm just going to click the run button or the do it button again, and you'll notice here that those items have been completely updated, of course, because it's been a fresh population of this data, but that macro has been reapplied at the end of that automation process. So that's basically how that works. You can, of course, run multiple macros if you want to. You don't have to put them all into one. But it is a very, very nice capability for kind of filling some gaps within your automation process on the Excel side and is very, very customizable.